No matter how it ends, matters how you stand. This is Lavoy Finicum. One cowboy stands for freedom. See you later.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending People's Rights here in Los Angeles, California, Area 10. Normally, I would be at the park in Pasadena at Victory Park, but today I'm a victim of the daylight savings time change, and it didn't work out so well, so I'm hosting from home. Um, Today, we have a guest with us named Matthew Dakin, and he's here to talk about, the recent fires in California, as well as maybe Maui, and the weaponization of our weather, and generally how to take our power back and get out of the system and become the people for whom our republic, our public servants work for. Instead of being subjects of kings and queens, the way the current government likes to portray themselves as masters and we are their servants, it's actually the other way around. So Matthew's going to lay out the foundation of how we've been deceived unknowingly. Most of us have fallen into this trap from birth, actually, but many of us have given up our inalienable rights, and we're going to talk today about how we get those back. So I'd like to introduce Matthew Dakin.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I think I'm going to start out with the fires because that's an easier one to put to bed after I lay out a little bit of my history, and then we'll go into our rights and what's happened and how we get them back. So just to let everybody know, I worked my whole career from 1985 to 2018 in the fire service. I was a career firefighter. The last 17 years of my career, I was a fire captain for municipal department here in the northern, the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. During that time, I had the opportunity to go on a lot of big fires around the state. So most of the big ones I was on, or many of the big ones I was on the last 10 years of my career. And it wasn't until the Tubbs fire, which was right in here in my backyard, that I really woke up. And that was the first one that I really realized was not a natural fire, that it was weaponized. I listened to it all night long and I could actually see the flame from my bedroom window as the fire started in Calistoga and marched its way over to Santa Rosa, burning down, crossing a 6-lane highway, burning down a fully sprinklered Kmart building. And at the same time, there were 70 other fires within the 5 counties around me that were going on at the same time. I had a radio that I could listen to, had all the emergency channels, and was listening to all these other fires where, up in Lake County, where they were having to transport people by boat to get them out of the fire, and just unbelievable stuff going on all night long. And I knew in my gut there was nothing natural about it. The winds were high, or it had been high, but there had been a lot of very high wind days throughout my career, and nothing like that. You get a couple of fires maybe, but not 70 plus fires. And so that's what woke me up. And that was in 2017. Then a year later, I retired early of 2018. And in the fall of 2018, I think it was November or December 2018, that's when the Paradise fire, the campfire in Paradise happened. And so I went up there with another retired fire captain friend of mine, and we did an investigation. And what we saw just blew our minds, because we were there with a different set of eyes. And we saw what happened at the coffee park in Tubbs Fire, where everything was turned to powder while trees were still up. And so, but during that, we weren't really investigating it. I was stuck at home and trying to protect my own property. So this time in Paradise, we had a good set of eyes, and what we saw, I'll just go over some of the stuff. The trees were burned from the inside out, creating tunnel systems where the roots were underground. Fire burns best where there's heat and there's oxygen, with heat and oxygen fuel, and the roots should be the safest place, and that's where they're burned down the most. We have fence posts. Many fence posts were only burned where the wire or metal was attached through the metal screws, metal nails, whatever. So that shouldn't happen. It would look like if you were to same thing would happen as if you threw a pile of nails in a microwave oven versus a pile of twigs. The nails would react much more violently, and that's what we saw up there. So and then again, like in the Tubbs fire, not as bad as the Tubbs fire, but again, burn patterns to where it was hard to tell where the kitchen or the bathrooms were. And in the Tubbs fire, everything was turned to powder. Normally in a fire, you can tell where the bathroom was or the kitchen was because, oh, there's the granite countertops are still there. Or in the bathroom, there's the toilet, or there's the shell of the refrigerator or the stove. But in the Tubbs fire, everything was turned to powder. And that just does not happen naturally. So the other thing we saw, there were multiple things that obviously didn't add up. We saw melted smart meters up there in Paradise, where one was in a vault, an electrical vault. There's no fire damage to the outside of the vault. When we opened the door, there was a melted smart meter that fell to the ground, that had melted and fallen to the ground. So it obviously happened through the wiring. So so that was obvious part of the what weapon system, whether by accident, pulse of energy, whatever it was, that was part of the issue. That we saw a couple different smart meters up there that same way. So we had there was a trailer park up there in Paradise that was on I-beams. Again, heat goes up, the heat, and these I-beams were underneath the trailers, and these were heavy I-beams, and they were melted. And to have that amount of heat at the bottom of these trailers melted, again, there's nothing natural about it. Cars were completely burned, while 5 feet away there'd be a plastic garbage can, fine. You know, so these were the things that we saw with our own eyes up there. And then ever since then, in these fires, we've seen the same thing. So in these fires ever since then, the Maui fire, you know, and one thing that my friend and I did after the Tubbs fire, we started researching what could this be. And the only conclusion that would make sense for a lot of this was directed energy weapons. That's what would explain what we saw. Some sort of directed energy weapons, sort of microwave technology, and that's what we concluded. It wasn't natural. So since then, you know, you start looking up the patents. It's scary. It's scary what's out there, how many different patents. And there's a site that anybody can go to. It's called geoengineeringwatch.org. That's Dane Wigington's site. And at the top of the page, there's the word patents. You click on patents, and you'll see hundreds of patents and having to do with controlling the weather. So that brings me up, and we've seen multiple fires. I had the Kincaid fire come through here. We've had multiple fires. We had the Maui fire. We saw what happened there. Same agenda. And then we've had the recent fires down in LA. And but to me, I actually don't talk about the fires very much anymore because it's sort of old news. We know they have these weapons, and I look at it as weather weaponization. They've weaponized the weather, and it's not just fires. If you look at the floods in North Carolina, look what happened there. They are controlling, they can steer hurricanes. They have the ability to control the weather, and they are controlling it. And so until that stops, nothing's going to change. There's a lot of distraction that we hear on the news about incompetency or DEI hires, or they didn't have the water, or their staffing wasn't up. That's all a distraction. There may be a little bit of validity to that, but it's not the major issue. You could have the best staffed agencies, the best groomed forest, the best fire protection systems, but if they're going to be using directed energy weapons and using these weapon systems, nothing's going to stop. When you're going to turn toilets into powder and granite countertops into powder, there's nothing we can do to combat against that until we get the bad guys' hands off these levers of destruction. So that's what I want that's the biggest takeaway I want people to understand. You're going to hear a lot on the news about, okay, they've taken care of that. Now they got water. Now they got that. No, this is weather weaponization. That's what the big thing that we have to look at. And until that is dealt with, nothing is going to change, and it's going to continue to happen. We got fires going on right now. I think in the Hamptons, we had fires going on in South Carolina the other day. I don't know if they're still going on. So, and that's going to continue, but it's not just going to be fires. It's going to be floods, and it's all going to be blamed on climate change. So, so that's kind of what I wanted to get out of there. And then I have, why are they doing this? You know, what's the purpose? And there's a lot of different reasons, you know, the whole Agenda 21, getting people out of the rural areas into the cities, control, getting people in a state of fear. It's disaster capitalism, okay? You can implement restrictions when they have to rebuild. You can get the restrictions that they want. No gas appliances, no fireplaces, all electric. You know, you get people dependent on the government. So new loan contracts with new strings attached. Population reduction. This could be for going after natural resources in an area. You know, terraforming the landscape, making it uninhabitable, unable to grow crops and destroy current crops. So there's just a lot of different ways and reasons for what's going on. And like I said, as long as the bad guys have the hands on the levers, I don't see anything changing. And the other thing is it allows for globalists to devalue an area through these weapons and then coming back and purchasing these properties for pennies on the dollar. So with that, I have, what can people do to prepare these types of attacks? You want to just recognize that this is real, it's going on, and look at your own situation and where you're living and what are you most likely, what type of attacks are you vulnerable to, and then take measures, you know, either move or do some things to protect yourself from these different possible attacks. So I think that's about it for the fires. Unless somebody has any questions on that, we can talk about it later. But I'll get back into the people's rights and that section of it. Unless anyone has any questions or wants more information on the fires.
Okay. Well, I wrote a few notes myself. And what I would like to do is maybe we can save all the questions for the end, if
Okay.
that's okay
Yeah,
with you.
absolutely.
And just go right into the other topics you wanted to talk about. And I'm taking notes as we go here.
Okay. All right. So this is a big subject. If everybody has something to write with, I would suggest getting it now, getting a pen or pencil and a piece of paper to write things down. I'm going to give a lot of things that you can look up to see what I'm saying is 100% true, and it's right there in black and white. So for people that don't understand this, this is going to be kind of a shocker. But so we have our founding documents. We have the Declaration of Independence, and I will read, I think it's the second paragraph. It says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." Okay. So to secure those rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. Okay, so our founders created a constitution, and you hear people all the time talking about constitutional rights. Okay, so the Constitution really does not give us any rights unless you're a 14th Amendment citizen. Then I guess you consider it gives you rights, but that's not something you want to be. The Constitution is actually a limit on the government. it tells the government, it's actually to secure our inalienable rights, which were talked about in the Declaration of Independence, which I was just talking about. That's the purpose of the Constitution. It's to protect our inalienable rights, not to give us rights, but to protect our inalienable rights. And it's a limit to the government. So then you have the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. Then you have, I'm going to get into the what a U.S. citizen is versus being one of the people of the several states. Okay, in 1968, the 14th Amendment was created, and that's where they created the U.S. citizen. And a lot of things happened during this time period, because it was in 1871 where they created the Organic Act, and DC was created. Okay, so remember I said inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. Well, when they created the 14th Amendment, U.S. citizen, that was really for blacks that needed protection from the states abusing them. So that's what it was for. But they've since gotten most everybody to identify as being a U.S. citizen, thinking that means being an American, but it really doesn't. So he or she who creates owns. Congress created the U.S. citizen. And with the U.S. citizen has civil rights, but doesn't have inalienable rights. So that U.S. citizen has what the government tells it has through regulations, codes, statutes. That's what the U.S. citizen has. And I will read what the 14th Amendment says. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And now this is where they started playing games, word games, okay? So even when you take out the word all persons, I have a Black's Law dictionary, and you look up the word person in my Black's Law dictionary, it says corporations are persons, as that word is used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. And that's Black's Law Revised 4th edition, page 1299. Let me tell you that one more time. It says, corporations are persons as that word is used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. Okay, and back again, the 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. Okay, so that right there is the first trick that they did. And then the second one is, so they've diminished our status as being basically corporate subjects at that point, subjects of the government. Instead of being above the government serves us. When we identify as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, we are underneath the government. Then you have United States versus United States of America. So if you look up Title 28, 3002, 15A, it says right there in the definitions, United States means a federal corporation. Now, most people think United States means country. They think that United States means country. Well, United States has multiple definitions, but when they're using it, they use it against us, and they're getting us to basically claim that we live in that federal corporation. And where is the United States located? Well, if you look in the Uniform Commercial Code 9-307H, it states the United States is located in the District of Columbia. Okay, the United States, that's what we think is a country. The United States is located in the District of Columbia, and that's in the Uniform Commercial Code 9-307H. So again, so they've gotten us to agree to being U.S. citizens, which means we got our rights from the government instead of inalienable rights from our Creator. And they got us to agree that we live in the United States, which is a federal corporation, which is located in DC. Okay. And then they've created these political subdivisions, which are called states, and you'll always see them with a capital S. There's a difference between a capital S state and a state with a small s. Capital S states are political subdivisions. These are other corporations. So United States Federal Corporation that's located in the District of Columbia, it has a Dun and Bradstreet number. Same with whatever state you're living in. The state of California has a Dun and Bradstreet number because these are corporations. These are basically businesses. And so you can see, look up the term state with a capital S includes any territory or possession of the United States, which is as referenced in Title 4, Chapter 4, subsection 110D. I know this is a lot that I'm giving you. So for the rest of this talk, whenever you hear me use the word United States by itself, then just convert that to federal corporation and everything will make more sense. So they've done a lot of things. So in 1871, they created a new constitution, the Organic Act, and they created the United States and a new constitution. They created DC and there was a new constitution. And this is the corporate constitution of the United States of America instead of for the United States of America. And where was I going with this? Well, and it's all for its corporate subjects. So the same thing happened with the state of California and the different states. Like the state of California, the original California Constitution was created in 1849. Well, in 1879, they created the Constitution for the state of California, which again is a corporate constitution. And you can look right in that. And if you look up online, Constitution, California Constitution, it's always going to come up the 1879 Constitution, because that's the one that everybody uses. But if you go into that, and if you look at Article 3, Section 2 of the California Constitution from 1879, you can look and it'll say the definition, the boundaries of the state are those stated in the Constitution of 1849. And the reason it says that is because the Constitution of 1849 is still valid. That is for the people. That never went away. Just like the 1789 Constitution for the United States of America never went away. They've just created these corporate constitutions that everybody is under because they don't know any better. So if I lost, you guys with me so far?
I am still with you. It's complicated, but I am a national myself.
Oh, great.
And we have nationals in our group.
Great.
And we'll have plenty of questions. So,
okay, so
please keep going.
Yeah. And then you can find that term national, what you're talking about, in their documents at 8 CFR 1101:21. And that says the term national means a person owing permanent allegiance to a state, and that is with a small s. Again, so that's important to make that distinction. One thing to look at that's going to help understand what I'm saying is if you look at Title 28, subsection 1746, and this is for sworn declarations. And I will read it to you, and hopefully this will make sense. So it says, wherever under any law of the United States or under any rule, regulation, order, or requirement made pursuant to law, any matter is required or permitted to be supported, evidenced, established, or approved by sworn declaration, verification, certificate, statement, oath, or affidavit in writing, or the person making the same, other than a disposition or an oath of offense or an oath required to be taken before a specified officer, and yada, 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 yada. Basically, it gives you 2 ways to do it. And this is the key. It says, if executed without the United States. Okay, now what does that mean? What did we say the United States means? Federal corporation, right? So if you just put in federal corporation, so if it executed without the federal corporation, this is how you do it. Then you write, I declare or certify, verify, or state under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States of America that the foregoing is true and correct, executed on date and signature. So that's how you do it if it's without the United States or federal corporation. Then you're going to say under the laws of the United States of America. And if it's executed within the United States or the federal corporation, then, or its territories, possessions, or commonwealths, then you say, I declare or certify, verify or state under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct, executed on whatever date. So you don't have to add under the laws of the United States of America. So right there, when you look at that, you can clearly see, and when you just substitute federal corporation for the word United States, it totally makes sense. So you can see the clear distinction between the country or the federal corporation. And then another thing to look at is in the Constitution, in the very beginning, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the U.S. Constitution. Okay, this talks, Article 1, Section 8 talks about the enumerated rights of Congress. Well, Clause 17 says the Congress shall have the power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 square miles. That's Congress's authority. That's their jurisdiction, 10 square miles, as may by session of particular states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. So it's that 10-mile square area or for other federal areas for those needful buildings. That's it. That's the limitation of Congress's jurisdiction. And that's in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. So everything that happens, any interactions with the government, it is all commerce. It's all commercial activities, commercial contracts. And contracts must be consensual. So in order to be valid. So when we're interacting with the government, we're interacting as entities, not men and women. Until we rebut the presumptions, we have no inalienable rights and must abide by every code, statute, regulation, etc., that the government creates. So we do not have those inalienable rights given to us by our creator, but only civil rights, which are privileges given us by the government until we rebut those presumptions. Or you'll see your name will be in all capital letters in one form or another, which depicts a fictitious entity, not a living man or woman. So, and let's see, all the laws, color of law or contractual commercial laws, and the remedy is UCC 1-308. The Uniform Commercial Code makes all crimes commercial only by contract as per 27 CFR 72.11. You can look that up. That's pretty interesting, showing right there in black and white that all crimes are commercial crimes. So, that's a lot. I gave a lot, but if you go back and listen and look this stuff up, it'll make a lot more sense if you listen to it a few times and go through it. And then so I have some solutions and some resources. Number one is you want to really learn what it means to be one of the people or the men and women of the several states, of the Union states, versus that's talked about in the Declaration of Independence, versus being a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. A U.S. citizen is a federal citizen, which is a creation of Congress. This will give you back your inalienable rights that you were born with instead of only the civil rights that you currently have. Learn how we've been deceived through the language, okay, what the definitions mean of all these different things. Like I said, the United States is a perfect one, or U.S. citizen, what does that really mean? Or like my Black's Law, persons or corporations, it's unbelievable. And then to do this, the best way to do it, and Adam, you may have a different approach, but is it's the Secretary of State. They're kind of the key. They're the key player, the Secretary of State, of who needs to be notified. They're the ones that issue passport and determine citizenship. You want to let the Secretary of State's office know, and it's our right. We're not asking, we're telling them, because we have a right to self-determination. So we let them know that we are choosing to be one of the people of the several states with inalienable rights given to us by our creator, and not a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. And there's a guy that has a site. It's called the matrixdocs.com. His name's Roger Sales. He has a good template. It's about halfway down his page. There's a good template for doing this. And that's THEMATRIXDOCS.com. He
Yeah,
has
Matthew, if I can just step in here.
please.
I, me and several of us are students of Roger Sales, and I have already filed my affidavit more than 2 years ago with the Secretary of State and proclaimed myself as a national. And I followed Roger's methods. So I found him to be the best teacher of this material. And so you're right on the money, man. Just keep on going. We'll have lots of questions, I'm sure.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, no, I love Roger. I still listen to him because it's kind of like continuing ed. It's like learning a new language, and you have to I just like having it in there. I don't learn much anymore. Here's what I'll say about Roger. I give him the highest credit at the low level stuff. And this is important. This is the low level stuff. When it gets to interacting with the government, and when it gets to the all capital letter and the entities and all that, he doesn't go there. He doesn't know, and it frustrates him. And so he doesn't, but that's more advanced. That's more advanced. So so as far as getting out of the system, I don't think there's anybody better than Roger, and he nails it. That's the key. I think so I'm 100% with you there. A couple other websites is one is called We the People #2.us. So that's We the People, just as it's spelled, just and then the #2.us. Great website to get you going on this stuff, learning this stuff. And then another one is educatedinlaw.org. So another great website where you can learn a lot. And Rogers, the matrixdocs.com has a ton of really good information on it. Lots of really good information. So so that's that. And then as far as things, solutions, once you've done that, once you've sent your notarized affidavit of citizenship evidence to the Secretary of State, I did mine in 2020 before I had ever met Roger. I actually did it through renewing my passport. I sent several pages, about 3 pages of explanatory statements, which are really powerful. But I like what Roger had to say, so I actually sent in, I've kind of followed Roger's thing a year or two later when I got a hold of, learned from what he was teaching. And then I referenced my explanatory statements that I had put in, which, so that's important, getting that in there. And then now you're one of the people. Now that you've done that, you're one of the people, and you want to make sure you stay out and don't contract back in. And then you can learn through these definitions that I'm talking about, who needs to file income taxes. Well, it's U.S. citizens and residents. Residents of what? Residents of the United States. Oh, that federal corporation? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So are you that? Then, or are you not that? So once you start realizing, you'll start realizing your power, that because the knowledge and learning this is really, you're taking back your power is what you're doing by learning this information, and you're becoming a full, free man or woman, beholden to no one. That's where we were born. We cannot, our rights can't be taken from us, but we can give them away through our ignorance. And that's what happens. And through their deceptive words and tricks that they do, we've given them away unknowingly. So, but they're ours, and we can always get them back. And so that's really what this is about, is learning this information and then study, and then realize that, oh my God, I've been funding my own enslavement. I've been spending money into these corporate foreign agencies, and they're using that money against me. So then once you get to that point, you can send a letter in, a revocation of election to pay taxes. And there's forms, and there's people that'll help you with that, to do that. So that's pretty much it, as far as what I have to offer, and then I'll answer any questions that anybody has at this point.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Matthew. I have something I can add to your knowledge base regarding getting your passport. If there's anybody out there that does want to renew their passport, and let's say you're in financial difficulties, there is a form you can get which enables you. Let me tell you the exact form, which enables you to get your passport for free. It's called the I-912 form. And so if let's say you're on a fixed income or something like that, you can go to the I-912 form and fill that out when you renew your passport, and you'll get a free passport. So you don't have to pay the $100 or whatever it is to get the card. And then I don't know how much it is to get the actual booklet, but you can get those for free. Just a little FYI there. But many questions for you, Matthew. Um, and by the way, anybody watching, if you would like to ask a question, go to the bottom of your screen and you'll see a section there that says reactions. And if you click on reactions, there's a option to raise your hand. So if you want to ask a question, raise your hand and we can get you in to ask that question. So it'll keep you in order there for questions. But I'll start us off uh, going back into the question of the fires.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned a fire that I'm not familiar with that really got you started in all of this, and that was the Tubbs fire.
Correct.
And I was wondering if you could go into a little more about the things that you found investigating that were not natural, not like other fires.
Yeah, unfortunately, I saw everything after the fact and I saw it more through video evidence and things like that because I was stuck at my house. If I had left, they wouldn't let me back in. And I was just trying to save my own place, but it was obvious, and the pictures and the evidence, everything, that Coffee Park was probably the best evidence of this whole subdivisions that were turned to powder completely. Everything turned to powder. So again, no evidence where the bathroom was or where the kitchen was, or because there's no stove, no shell of a stove or a refrigerator or countertops or toilets or anything. Everything turned to powder, while many of the trees were still alive. And again, that fire was the first really big one. And like I said, there were about over 70 fires that night that all happened at the same time over the 5 closest counties to me. And the way they were burning, the way it was going, it was obvious that it was nothing natural about it. And it wasn't until several days, and we were hearing these stories of, and seeing photos. The photos were unbelievable. Just nothing left at all. I've been on my whole career over about 33 years in the fire service. There's always things left. There's things that incomplete burning. There's always incomplete burning, especially when you have metallics and porcelains and things like that. They don't burn. But they did in the Tubbs fire. So they overdid it. And I think they scaled back with Paradise because I didn't see anything that looked as bad, although there was the underground stuff in Paradise was unbelievable. The tunnel systems for the trees and everything were unbelievable. And the obvious where things only burned with the metal, and there's also guardrails, same thing, and only burned where the bolts were going through the wood. I mean, and they're up, there's no grass around, they're they're like gravel and asphalt below, and they're burned there just where the bolts went through. So we knew there was a metal component to like a grounding component to it. And my friend Robert Brame, who you probably see, he's an arborist that's gone and done a lot of speaking about these fires and gone to a ton of fires. And uh, um, we looked at the aftermath of the Kincaid fire together, which was kind of the same, almost same place where the Tubbs fire burned. And one of the things that he really knows, and I could see it too, was he knows the trees way better than I do. When it was the water lovers hit the most, the trees that have the most water, and the ones that are in the creeks a lot of times got burned the most, the ones that should be the safest. So, so sorry, as far as back to the Tubbs, I don't have that much other than I was stuck here and they planned on burning it through my property. So I was stuck, and I just saw the aftermath afterwards going through and looking, but I didn't really get to investigate it as it happened.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we have a question from Yernea, but Yernea, you gotta unmute yourself there.
I'm unmuting. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew, for
Yeah.
your presentation.
You're welcome.
It's good to have somebody that's from that field, the firefighter, because I'm from the medical field, so I can talk to you about no viruses and all of that, but I have no clue about fires. But I'm a couple of blocks south from Altadena. So our Eaton fire that burned through, that started on January 7th, right? My house was spared by a hair. And yeah, I'm hearing, I mean, I came across the direct energy weapon when Maui happened. So I'm aware of that. The thing is, people that are completely asleep, if you start talking to them about direct energy weapon, like my coworkers, I work in a medical center, right? They're still deep believers that COVID was a deadly virus, that vaccine was what saved everybody, right? And that measles is pretty much gonna kill everybody down in Texas, so vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. So I'm commenting on when you were talking about DEI and all of that is a distraction. Yeah, I agree. But this is what I first presented to a coworker of mine. I presented to her that the water, the water basin was empty for Palisades fire. One of those, what are they called? That contains water, right?
Reservoir.
Reservoirs, thank you. You can tell that I'm not native English speaker,
Okay.
but that's okay. So I presented to her, are you aware that one of those was empty? Because she's completely buying into everything. She adores our governor, our amazing Governor Newsom. I mean, Kamala Harris is the best thing that ever happened to the United States of America, just immediately after Biden. So when I said that to her about the reservoir being empty, she goes, oh, really? I didn't know that. If I said to her, direct energy weapon, I would have lost her. That's just my comment. What are kind of your thoughts? I mean, I'm for the truth, nothing but the truth. But for these sleepers, you need to slowly. Just that's my comment.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment, a valid comment. And the people, we're not, you know, to me, the biggest weapon, the ultimate, the bigger weapon than direct energy weapons is the television, and is the mind control of the media. I mean, that is the biggest weapon that we're really up against. And these people, like this gal you're talking about, they have the same vote, the same everything as anybody else. And so, yeah, there's some people you're just never going to get to. And, I just think it's important to keep speaking the truth, getting it out there, because even if things sound crazy at first, the more they hear it, repetition is what the media does. Repetition, 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 repetition with everything. Like a friend of mine mentioned that, you know, I was going to talk today, said, oh, you should talk about the word democracy never comes up in it. And it doesn't. It's not in any founding documents. Democracy is not anything we want to be a part of. Okay, but you hear that everyone uses it, repetition, 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 until it becomes part of our vocabulary and it gets in our subconscious. And so we have to change the subconscious of all these people. And so we need to just continue to get the message out as much as we can. And there's going to be people on the fringe that will get, and some people like her may never ever get it, and they'll always think we're nuts. But I think that we have to use our time wisely, I think, and I just think we're not going to save everybody. We're not going to get everybody to be able to see the truth for what it is, and to realize that they're indoctrinated, they're mind controlled, and a majority of the people, or a huge percentage of the people, are people that get their news from the television and CNN. They're mind controlled and they have no clue, and they think that we're all nuts. So that's what we're dealing with.
So unmute yourself, your Nat.
I still think that some of us are on this earth exactly for slowly guiding the ones that are completely lost. Because I'm still in medical research. And one thing that I do not talk to them is how everything they've ever done in medical research is completely upside down. I will first talk to them about fires, because I won't touch stuff that is part of who they are. Because somebody that's been a researcher all their life, I won't start there. I won't start saying, you know what you've been researching about cancer is completely wrong, right? So I'll find something else. I touched on LGBTQ being spread in schools, because the guy has a 17-year-old who came home and she's like, Dad, I'm not gonna do this assignment that the teacher wants from me. So this is where we started. I didn't start with him saying, SARS-CoV-2 virus has never been isolated, right? So this is how I see me using my time wisely, by slowly finding what they're interested in or what they really don't agree with the government is doing. So when they are on board with, we don't agree with LGBTQ, I'm like, oh, but you know why it's being pushed? The whole transhumanism, blah, blah. So I still believe that way more people are going to wake up than we thought in 2020. That's how I see stuff.
I applaud what you're doing, and I think we all have to do what we think is right and what's best for us and our personalities. My personality probably is not as patient as yours, and I'm sure it's not. And there's a place for my personality, and there's a place for your personality, and in your skill sets and my skill sets, and we're all rowing in the same direction. And good for you for doing what you're doing and being as patient as you are with these people. That's awesome. And I commend you for that. I don't have your patience. So then,
you know where I'm not patient on? Facebook and X. On Facebook and X, I say what I have to say. The truth, nothing but the truth. But with people, like when I talk to people that I know, I will go slow and I'll be like, oh, this, that. On people that follow me on X and on Facebook are like, she's nuts. Because I'm nuts. There, I'm not patient. I'm really not patient. So picking and choosing who and how I want to go about things. And I was not patient at all the way until 2020. I was the least patient person on this earth. Just saying.
Okay, so Matthew, I have a question. You actually clarified something that I hadn't really been clear about, as far as the difference between the United States and the United States of America. If I'm correct, in the original Constitution, it's United is capitalized and then States is not capitalized. Of America, and then America is capitalized, right?
America's capitalized. I don't know that United is even capitalized, because United is an adjective.
Right, right.
It is an adjective, so I don't see why that would be, but I'm not positive. I'm not positive. And they've made corporations with the names of all of it. United States of America, all caps. If you see anything in all caps, where every letter is all caps, that is not English. That is a corporation.
Right.
But yes, in the documents and the statutes and codes and all that, as far as I can tell, anytime it says United States, I'm pretty sure that they're talking about the federal corporation, versus the United States of America. And the United States of America we need to really think of it as like the European Union. It's really like the United Countries of America is really what it is, the 50 independent countries. Um, so it's really like the European Union. It's a union of states or a union of countries.
Got it. So if you could just maybe go into for a minute, you mentioned the difference between the original Constitution and the Constitution of 1871. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So yeah, so I think they're almost identical as far as, you know, the original de jure, what we call de jure Constitution by our founders. It was the Constitution for the United States of America. And then in 1871, and this trickery came after, this is all after the Civil War, when everything was a mess. And so then they created the Constitution of the United States of America. So that's the corporate constitution. And they created the Organic Act of 1871, and that's when DC was created, that 10-mile square area. And that is where the United States, the federal corporation, is located in there. And then all the other political subdivisions, which is the state of California, state of Nevada, every state, and the county of and city of, all those are political subdivisions of the United States Corporation. So essentially, everything is federal, 100%. It's all federal.
Yeah, and I mentioned, or you mentioned earlier, a particular clause in the Constitution that talks about what land the federal government is allowed to own and how it's restricted to Washington, D.C., that 10 square mile area. And outside of that, only for needful buildings like military bases or naval bases, things like that. So what I think a lot of people don't realize is that the whole Bundy Ranch standoff had to do with this section of the Constitution, and all the disputes involving Lavoy Finicum and Ammon Bundy up in Oregon involved this particular part of the Constitution, because the feds are not allowed to own a lot of the land they claim ownership of. Like in California, where I'm not sure the exact figure, it's either 43% or more is claimed to be federal lands. So California, like 43% of it is not California. It's Fed land. So how do we, I guess my question to you, Matthew, is how do we get across to people just how far the current federal government, which is a corporation, has gone, how much control they've got?
They've got a lot, but it's only because we haven't pushed back, in my opinion. And if there was ever a time, and if there was ever administration that I'd want to push back in, it's right now. If there's ever an administration that has the best chance of following the law and holding them to the law, I think it's right now under this current administration. And it's in black and white. If you look at the study of the Buck Act, I mean, that's talking about Social Security numbers. And again, they consider all of us, we're government property. They get us claiming that Social Security number, which they created, under that all capital letter name, which they created. They get us identifying as that, and we're their corporate subjects. And so they get us, their federal area expands where when we're there and we're claiming to be there. So there's different ways where they claim to grow their federal sphere of influence, because we're all claiming to be federal citizens, and we're claiming to live in a federal area. I mean, even our zip code, zone improvement program, that's a federal that's federal. The zip code is federal. So we have to learn how we don't claim to be out of any federal area. We need to claim to be out of the federal areas. We need to learn how to address our stuff. We're going to put brackets around the zip code. Okay, that's going to take that off the page, basically, and care of addresses and things, because they've made it to where we're all in that federal area if we don't push back against it. And we're all federal citizens if we don't push back against it. So it's understanding the game and the tricks that they played to get us in their system, but they had to do it by deception because they can't force us. And once we call them out on it, then there's nothing they can do. So I was just in a, and this is all by principle. I'm doing it for principle purposes only. I put private plates on my car, and I had sent letters in to the California Secretary of State asking for any ownership interest in my private automobile. Never got anything back. I contacted the CHP commissioner, the DMV, the attorney general, giving a bunch of opportunity to rebut anything I said about my right to travel as a private man in my private automobile. Never got anything back. So I got pulled over, and I had my first court date, and I was challenging jurisdiction. And so I went in there, and they saved me for last. I had done a writ of abatement. I had sent some paperwork in, some, rebutting presumptions. And so reserving all my rights. And so they saved me for last, tried to get everyone out of the courtroom. A couple people stayed around and listened. And he said, okay, Matthew Dakin. And he was up there and he starts telling me my rights. And I interrupted him. I said, excuse me, Your Honor, may I interrupt you? And he's quiet. I said, I don't need you to tell me my rights. I have not waived any inalienable rights. I am here by special appearance only, not a general appearance. I'm here due to threat, duress, coercion. I look up and he's gone. He left the courtroom. So so then the bailiff came over, shut off my microphone, and said, sir, I need you to sit down, or I'm going to have to ask you to leave the courtroom. So maybe I should have left. And I don't know what the right answer is, but I went back and sat back down. And then a minute or two later, the judge comes back in and goes, okay, like nothing had happened. Okay, we have the traffic, Matthew Dakin. So I go back up, and this time he just wouldn't let me talk. And he set a court date. He just rolled right over. And I spoke up and said, hey, you're acting as my attorney. I do not consent to this. Yeah, I'm here under special appearance. And he set a court date. So I have a court date coming up. But my point to all this is he knew he couldn't be in there when I told him I have not waived any of my inalienable rights, and he left the courtroom. And so he was tyrannical when he came back in by just doing that. I mean, I had paperwork. So I got a court date coming up. We'll see what happens. But we have to push back. We have to do this. Otherwise, they're going to continue to be more and more tyrannical. And to me, that's why I'm doing this. It'd be a lot easier just to pay for registration and all that. But if we don't exercise our rights, we have no rights. And that's really where we are. And so I hope I didn't go too far off there with that story, but I just...
You'd be shocked to know how similar your story is to mine. I'm dealing with this traffic ticket myself, going through the same exact process that you're going through. And I have procured the video of the traffic stop. And in it, I don't answer questions. I signed it under duress, 1-308. And I tried to tell this to the judge to just dismiss the case because I'm not a party to this whole process, because I'm not in their system. I'm not under their corporate fiction jurisdiction. And I ran into the same kind of thing with a judge that he was unhinged. I mean, literally unhinged. So I've got an infraction here,
Yep.
Making a right turn where there's a sign that says no right turn on red, okay? Which I dispute that I actually did that. But anyway, so I wanted to ask questions about, getting the case thrown out to begin with. And as soon as I said anything other than guilty, not guilty, no contest, this commissioner, he wasn't even a judge, it was a commissioner, just became unhinged. And
Yeah.
it seemed immediately to me like he was ready to treat me like I was a mass murderer and hold me in contempt of court and all of this. So the way he behaved, and I tried to ask a couple questions. I just I did enter a plea, and maybe I shouldn't have done that, but the plea was entered under duress, believe me. So I have not agreed to any contracts. I haven't signed anything. So I guess both of us, you and I, will find out soon enough
Yeah.
if our process actually works. But you know, it occurs to me that the whole thing has been a deception from the beginning,
Yeah.
right from the moment of birth. In fact, our parents unknowingly sign sign us onto they sign the birth certificate,
Yep.
which creates the corporate entity using our name in all caps. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. That was that was after the bankruptcy in 1933. That's when that corporation went bankrupt in 1933. And so that's when they started doing the birth certificates, like you're saying, and made us basically collateral for the debt. And it's our future labor, and it's through the birth certificate. That's what is, it's our credit. Our credit is running everything. There is no money. That's when they took away the money in 33. They took away the gold and silver, and everything's based on credit, and it's in we the people, but we are identifying as government entities. We're identifying as US citizens. So and it's our future labor. And it's weird. It's like, if you look at, we're playing two roles, because it's our credit as we the people that funds everything. So when you go get a loan from a bank or anywhere, it's your credit as one of the people that allows that. It's like we're all trust fund babies. We're all trust fund men and women, but we don't have access to our trust. So they allow us to borrow and pay interest on our own money that's ours. It's our own credit. And that was the remedy for when they stole the gold and the silver back in 33 when that happened. So there is no money. It's all credit. If you take your check, like a bank check, and you look at the line where you sign your name over it, often, not always, but most of the time, that line is actually not a line. It'll say authorized representative, because you, as the living man or woman, are the authorized representative for that all capital letter name that's up on that check there. And that's how this is. And that's the next level that I was talking about. After you go through Roger's sales thing, is learning how to work within the system, not to create joinder with that all capital letter entity, but to be the authorized representative and have power of attorney over it, be able to do business as that power of attorney or authorized representative over that, in order to intermingle in the system. And it's a little tricky. It's a learning curve, and I'm not an expert on it. I'm just kind of halfway there right now myself in doing that. But to me, that's the next level. I know that as far as birth certificates go, I think mine is in my proper name form. And I know you can get birth certificate from the county, and there's also birth certificates that are from the state. And I think the long form is from the state, I forget what, of the state agency. That's the one, if you're gonna get one, that's really the one you want. Um, I haven't really studied that in a while, the birth certificate thing, because to me, it's more their thing, and I'm more focused on just, I don't really care about that much. It's more of getting out of the system. And I just, like, I've never gone after, there's people that really try to go after the money and the trust funds and all that. I've never done any of that. I just want to be left alone as a free man. And that's where my focus has been, with everything that I've done to this point. So.
Well, awesome. You know, that's the point of it, really, and that's the whole point of people's rights, is to go after our freedom. And you know, live like free people,
Yeah.
really free people. I had a friend that came to visit from England, and he wanted to go fishing. And so he found out that in order to go fishing, we needed to get a license. And he thought that was so incredibly strange and weird, right? And I said, well, yeah, they're trying to get money out of you. And he goes, no, 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 it's about control. It's about control. And so I went down a little rabbit hole because of that. But if you think about it, every creature on the earth, except us, under this current system, can forage for food. A wolf can go out and hunt, a pack of wolves can go out and hunt a pack of deer, and they can bring down a deer and eat it. Animals, rabbits can roam around and eat natural products off the ground, right? But humans, we need a permit. Why is it that we have less rights than an animal? If you think
Like
about that.
traveling, just like traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Matthew, I would love to, get much deeper into a lot of these topics. And I know it's a lot for people to absorb, but I'm wondering if there's anybody on Zoom that has questions or would like to ask a question about it. Please come on up and do so. I see Travis coming up. So unmute yourself, Travis. Is that Ed that wants to ask a question?
Yes, Ed has a question. With the fires and tubs in Paradise and other fires, were there any restrictions for the people to move back, like Paradise, or move back after the fires?
Yeah, that's been a real problem, a huge problem. I'm not sure so much about tubs because I was focused on my own stuff and trying to save my own place. I know getting permits and rebuild permits and all that is an issue, has been an issue for a lot of people here in Sonoma County. In Paradise, I was disgusted. I had a press pass, so I was able to get through there immediately and see everything. But there were people that for like 40 days or some unbelievable amount that weren't even allowed to go back to their houses. It was unbelievable. And this is, again, it's this inverted, these are our public servants. We, the people, are the boss. They're our servants, and our servants are keeping us after our house burns from going into our house for like 40 days. It's absolutely ridiculous. You look at Maui and how they cordoned, not only did they cordon it off, they put up a shield where you couldn't even see through, and they didn't allow drones to fly over. And so they were keeping it all secretive in Maui, that whole area that burned there. For months and months, many months, maybe, I don't remember how long, 6 months or something crazy. So where people couldn't even get back to ever to see the damage. So yeah, it's complete violation of our rights, in my opinion. And that's where we, the people, need to come together and start taking back our control of our servants. And this is how you do it. This is the way we do it. But as long as we're a subject of the government, we really don't have the rights that we think we have.
Yeah, well said. So I don't know if a lot of people understand the way that we are tricked. I'm sorry. I see Derek wants to ask a question. So unmute that, Travis, and we'll let Derek ask a question.
Okay, guys.
Okay, go
On the
ahead,
subject of
Derek.
on the subject of fires, so one, what is the why are they doing this? Number two, how can we prove that it's some kind of weapon? Number three, I also just a bunch of questions, but the way it's burning, how do we know that it's not because of the elements, the environment around us. I don't know if it's burning differently. And yeah, just the purpose of why would they be doing this, and can we prove that they're using directed energy weapons or that type of that type of microwave type technology? So how do we know this?
Okay, so okay, how do we know it? It's pretty obvious. It's extremely obvious when you start looking at the evidence. Trees don't burn from the inside out. Nails and metal doesn't spontaneously burn by itself and only burn posts don't only burn where the metal attaches to it. That's just not there. There's only, you know, that is advanced technology that's doing that. It's obvious for anybody that studies it that that's what it is. Things have never in the past, ever in the history, houses haven't burned to where they turn everything into powder. Porcelain toilets turn to powder, granite countertops turn to powder, refrigerators, stoves turn to powder. That doesn't happen in normal fires. So, and then you start looking up, well, what could cause that? And then you start looking up the patents and, oh, this can do exactly that. This patent here can do exactly that. Then it makes it pretty obvious. And then you see other stuff that you can't prove, but video, photo evidence of people from their phone seeing these, but look like lasers coming down. Yeah, I can't prove any of that. You know, could be photoshopped, whatever, maybe. But the evidence itself of how these things burned, only they're not natural. So who did it? Don't know. Who's pulling the levers? Who's doing it? Don't know. They're not natural. And so at a minimum, our public servants are allowing it. They're not investigating. They're allowing this to happen. Is it a foreign country? Could be. I have no idea. I have no idea who's doing it, but it's being done. And I think we need to hold our government, our servants accountable until we get to the bottom of it and it stops. Just like the spraying, they're spraying over my house today. And during all the fires, the Kincaid fire, the Tubbs fire, there was heavy spraying right before those fires started. And then even after, during the, I think it was a Kincaid fire, they sprayed. The only air support I was getting was the spraying every day, the chemtrail spraying for several days. So, and we know what's in a lot of this stuff. It enhances, there's desiccants, and they enhance the burning of all these metals that they're spraying, turning things into a tinderbox. So
I can add something to that conversation as well. You know, because a lot of people want to know why are they doing this spraying, for example. So Monsanto, one of the biggest, most evil corporations in the world, which Bill Gates is heavily invested in, they do aluminum resistant seeds.
Yep.
And so they actually are in a position to have the only crops that will grow after an area has been sprayed with aluminum and barium and all these different things that are in the chemtrails. Monsanto is then in a position to have the only crop seeds that will actually grow in that environment, because other seeds die out because of the aluminum. So there's heavy financial motivations for this, but I see Derek has a follow-up question, so go ahead.
There you go. Well, he didn't answer my other questions about why they're doing it, but here's a follow-up to the technology. So if it's burning these, you're saying it's into dust, which I see. I mean, I'm fully honest with, I'm totally with you on all that stuff. But you know, when you talk to people out there, they're like, well, what, you know, so as a human, why wouldn't it affect the person that's in the house if these radiation things are burning all these things down? And if it's targeted, how are they actually doing this? Actually, I have a friend in Altadena that her house was next to a house that burned, but all the houses around her didn't burn. So it could be electric. I mean, the smart meters, I don't know, but how do you explain the targeted of these houses? It doesn't make any sense. So the reason behind it, and also why doesn't it affect a human that's in there? This radiation is going to burn all this other stuff, not a human being. So these are just questions that, you know, I run into. Other people look at you like you're crazy, but I'm totally on board with you. I understand, but I want, you know, answers also, because you see evidence, but you can't really prove that this is what's happening. So that's kind of my question.
Yeah, I never try to answer why they're doing it, other than what I did. I did answer in the beginning. I went over reasons that and kind of along with what Adam was just talking about. There's a lot of financial benefits for burning out areas, disaster capitalism. If they have the down in LA, the smart city plans, if it's 15-minute city, whatever it is, they have. How do you get people, if you want to redesign an area, how do you do that when you're not going to get people to agree? We burn the area out. There's a lot of different motivations, especially if you have sociopaths or psychopaths at the top of these organizations that are more about power than humanity. So I'll never claim to know why anybody does anything. Can't get into their head, but we do know it is happening, and there's a lot of different financial reasons, financial benefits to people for this to take place. Like Adam was just saying, with the Monsanto having certain seeds that grow on high pH and sprayed areas much better than anything else. All I go by is the evidence that I've seen, and I've seen the evidence. It's obviously not natural. Nature doesn't burn metal or have metal burn things, while everything else is fine. Things that we had manzanita bushes that were, the leaves were not burned, but they were. If we could screen share, I can show you. I can show you some of these photos. Where the manzanita bush is burned all the way through at the base, this thick. So but the leaves didn't burn, and it create tunnels. That is not, there's nothing natural about that. It's tunnel systems in the ground. So, or a smart meter burned inside of a vault where it melted and burned and fell to the floor of the vault. That happened from internal wiring or pulse of energy or something. So these are just the evidence, the clues of what's going on. And then you look at the patents, and the patents explain it all. So, I mean, they can create winds, they can create the conditions that they want. And that's to think that, look at Operation Popeye. That was, I think, 1968 or 69, where they flooded the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Okay, that was technology from the 60s. Do you ever hear them talking about using these technologies to combat these fire conditions or these fires? Absolutely not. They don't want us knowing or even thinking about that. So they're creating these conditions, and they're capitalizing on that. And so that's what's going on.
All right, go ahead.
Do you have any speculation about the fires in LA and Altadena and Palisades? What do you think that caused it? Smart meters or anything else?
I haven't looked into that. I'm assuming that it's probably a combination, like what I've seen. There's been a combination of things up in Paradise. It was not just the smart meters. It was, the way the cars burned, the way tires, if they had the radial tires, the metal inside the tires, they burned, and they just had the metal left. If they were rubber tires without the steel belted radial, they didn't burn. Again, it's that metal factor. Things were metal, and things that were grounded burned more, connected to the ground. So I don't know. I haven't studied the fires, but I don't need to study them because, again, just the winds alone. Why don't they shut the winds down? Why don't they combat them? They can make high pressure zones, low pressure zones. They've got HARP, high frequency active aurora research program. They can combat these things if they wanted to, but they're not. So to me, it's what's happening is their will. And that's obvious to me for the most part.
I think that's a key point, but go ahead, Travis.
Good. I got another question. So if there's back to the, I hate to keep harping on this, but so as far as we're concerned, if we're in these houses and these things that there's electronic or radiation, why doesn't I've seen all this evidence with all the tires and all the radio, all that stuff. I've seen all that stuff. Well, my question is, so if we're physically in a house and our house is burning, how is it not affecting the human being? How are we not burning up as opposed to everything else burning up around us?
Well,
Does that make sense?
I don't think we're finding any live people in Coffee Park or any of these houses that burned down. I don't think we're finding any live people in there. And what we found up in Paradise was, I talked to some people, and one guy I became friends with, everything he described was radiation poisoning that he got. And they had, I think they called it the norovirus or one of those viruses back then. And they were claiming, oh, everyone's got norovirus. This was right after the Paradise, the campfire in Paradise. And we realized, oh my God, that's radiation poisoning from all the radiation that these people got from the weapons that were being used. That was our conclusion, which I can't prove, but I think that's what was going on. And they were calling it norovirus. So if you look at flu-like symptoms, the flu-like symptoms are the same as radiation poisoning. And I think that that's happening a lot. We're just not realizing. We think we got the flu.
Did that answer your question, Derek? If you have more, go ahead. So, Matthew, I can't overemphasize how the point about how we have to acquiesce to this for it to happen, for it to continue happening. And, so the point is, what happens if we don't acquiesce? If we decide to not acquiesce in mass? And then we've got a situation where we can make actual change. So that's how Gandhi basically forced the British Empire to leave India, was by just not cooperating with their program. So we can do the same thing here. And I'm wondering if you have any inspirations in that regard, or people that you would like to recommend we listen to.
No, I think we are in 100% agreement. We are in 100% agreement. I think it's just the first step is understanding, number one, that getting out of the system, stop being, I don't know people's views on Ukraine, on the funding of that, on the funding of Israel, any of that stuff. But if you're in the system and you're funding everything that's going on, then look in the mirror. If you don't like the way the government is spending money around the world and here in the United States, and you're part of the system, then look in the mirror and complain to the guy in the mirror. So the first step is to not be a part of the problem, recognize the problem and stop, you're digging a hole. First step is put the shovel down. Well, first step here is stop being a part of the problem, learn and don't support what you don't like. Don't support the government that is not supporting you. To me, that's the first step. And once enough people start doing that, and realizing we're taking our power back, then things are automatically going to change, and the government is going to shrink, and revenues are going to shrink, and they're not going to have, and it's supposed to be the consent of the governed. And we need to make sure that we are consenting for everything that we are paying into. And if we don't like it, then we need to stop paying into it and funding what we don't like. So to me, that's the first, and it's a big step. It'll do a lot. That'll do a lot, and continue to learn and continue, because we don't know what our servants are doing. They have so many hidden programs, so much stuff that it's absolutely goes against any constitutional republic values of we're the bosses. Why would we hire servants to do stuff behind our back that they don't even tell us that they're doing? So we need to have total control. As we are the boss, we're their employers. We need to have total control. So to me, that is the solution. And enough people do this, it'll start taking care of itself. That's my view on it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So for people to understand this point that Matthew just made, if you remember a while back, they did what they called the banker bailouts. And they basically shoveled our money into the bankers' pockets because, they were having some difficulties, apparently, with their management of our money. So these banks were supposedly going to fail, and so they decided to give an unlimited checkbook out of our tax money to the banks. Well, when that was going on and when that was being proposed in our government, there were people all over the country calling into Congress and the White House expressing their displeasure with the idea of giving the banks our tax money. And a lot of people don't realize this, but it was approaching 99% of all the calls received by Congress and the White House were negative, opposed to giving the banks this bailout. And they did it anyway. So that tells you that this is not a government of the people, for the people, by the people. They feel they feel they can act with impunity right now, and that's our fault because we have to stop that. We have to take steps so that they can't act with impunity. But Matthew, we've got to talk again. We've got to talk again for sure. There's so much to go into here, but if I can encourage you to join People's Rights.
Yeah, how do I do that?
So you go to peoplesrights.ws. I'm going to put it in the chat room here. So at the bottom of your screen, you've got a chat button.
Yeah.
So go to peoplesrights.ws and you can sign up there. And then what you'll be connected with is our whole nationwide network of people. We've got almost 70,000 people now nationwide that are part of People's Rights. And this is what our sole focus is, helping each other protect our rights and reclaim our rightful role as the boss in this country.
Great.
So because what we need is more people like yourself and those of us that are here at the meeting to step up and start taking these little steps. Like you mentioned, funding of Israel, funding of Ukraine. Well, there's so many nuances to go into, but let me just explain this real quick. Israel is another country. That is not the United States. Okay, so if you want to make an argument that Israel should receive help from the United States, you can make that argument. But my argument is we need to help everyone in the United States first before we consider helping Israel or Ukraine or anyone else. There's people in North Carolina that have lost everything. There's people in California now that have lost everything. And we're sending $3.8 billion every year, and it's probably more than that now, to Israel. We've sent billions and billions and billions to Ukraine. And the purpose of that is what? Maybe to antagonize Putin and get us into World War III. Do we really want that? So we've got to get the government back into the position where they realize that we're the boss. And if we don't do that, then they're going to continue just as they have. And they're going to bring us more disastrous events like 9/11, like the Maui fire, like the Eaton fire, and what happened to Pacific Palisades here in Paradise, and North Carolina, just absolutely devastated by these weather modification techniques. And I believe that they steered a hurricane to North Carolina. I believe they did that. And I believe it's possible. But unless we all get involved, they're going to continue that way. So I just want to thank you for for what you're doing. I mean, you're doing your part. We're trying to do our part. And if we all step up and do our part, amazing things can happen.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah, I just want to kind of reiterate too that, what we think is our country, it's really a corporation, and they are looking out for their corporate interest. Okay. It's really not, like you said, it's not a government by the people for the people. It is a corporation for the corporation, and using the people for the corporate interest of the corporation. And we have to realize that's what it is, and that's what's going on. And so it's not about our interests, it's about the corporation's interest. So
Right. You mentioned a term that I've mentioned before earlier in your presentation. You mentioned disaster capitalism. And I just want to tell people a little more about what that is, because a lot of people don't know. During the BP oil spill in the Gulf of America, anyway, during that oil spill disaster, a lot of people don't realize this, but British Petroleum had invested a few months prior to that oil spill, they had invested in a product called Corexit. And this Corexit is a treatment for water that I guess it absorbs oil and mitigates the damage from oil. So they bought up this company called Corexit, and they made more money from the cleanup of the oil spill than they lost from the oil spill itself. So that's what disaster capitalism is. They profit from the rebuilding and from the damage repairs. So that's what a corporation is. That's why it's so devastating that our government is a corporation, because a corporation's only purpose is profit above all else. They care nothing about people. It's profit above all else. And so the United States is a corporation bigger than all other corporations. So, if you think about where that puts us as a people, we've got to do something about that. But anyway, Matthew, if we could have you back, I would love to do that.
absolutely. So I'd be happy to come back. So thank you. I'm glad we're so aligned in our views and and what we're trying to do here. So because I think I didn't know really anything about you guys. I saw some of the videos. I know Alana Freeland's been on there. I love her. And
Yeah.
so I love your name, people's rights, because that's all what it comes back to is we have to learn our rights and who we really are and who we're supposed to be, and our relationship with the government and what the government actually is. Like you were just saying, it's a corporation. Profits is what it's all about for them, and we're just useful tools for that corporation. And we have to switch this. We have to change it, and we don't have to be part of that corporation. We can get out of it, and then they're supposed to, there's rules that they're supposed to do to, as if they're going to be a corporation and serve the government, be the government servicer, one that provides governmental services as a corporation, then we need to hold them accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Matthew. I'd like to give anyone else that does have a question one final chance to ask those. And so since I don't see any hands going up, I wanted to ask you if you could maybe just comment one more time about, you saw a melted smart meter in the Paradise Fire that was inside a vault. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah,
It seems very suspicious.
do I have screen sharing abilities?
I believe I can give you.
It says share right here. Can I click on share?
Yeah. Go. Let's see.
Oh, it says a host isn't allowing.
Let me see if. Okay, I'm making you the host. Okay, now you should be able to do it.
Okay, so don't want desktop.
And also, Matthew, you can drop any pictures you have in the chat here.
Oh,
And then I can include them in the video that we're going to do later.
okay. I got to figure out how to find this the desktop. Where do I go to get the desktop? Oh, here's desktop right here. How do I? Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Take your time. So if you open up your photograph or video or whatever it is.
It's literally on my desktop. It's on my desktop,
Okay,
but I'm trying to
so
find.
when you click share screen,
Mhm.
you should be able to
Oh, wait, here we go. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Give me a second. There. Okay. Can you see that?
yes.
Okay. So this was the vault. Okay. It was completely closed. It was just a medical, I'm not medical, a metal, I don't know, about 6 or 7 foot tall. I don't know, about 5 foot wide, something like that, vault. Now I'm going to try and get out of this. Sorry, I'm so incompetent with this.
That's okay. Take your time.
Figure out how to get out of this guy here. Here we go. I'll move this.
If you could also, when you get the chance, if you could drop some of those photos in the chat, then I'll be able to get them and add them to the video later as well.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I got to move this over. Okay, here we go. Okay, I think this is it here. Okay. So can you see that?
Oh, wow. Yes.
Okay. So that was yeah, that's what when we opened it up, that's what we saw. So,
Wow.
okay, so let me get out of here. And then this was okay, this was one of my favorite ones. This was all paved. This is all paved. This was a tree that it looks like a barbecue pit. It had burned from the inside out, and there were no other trees around it.
Wow.
So and then here's a manzanita bush that I was talking about that was burned at the base with all the leaves, everything fine. You see it burned at the ground, but all the leaves were completely fine.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah, there was nothing natural about any of this. So here's another tree. You know, this is typical. It fell over, burned from the inside out, and fell over an oak tree.
That's unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah, these weren't anomalies. These were like one after another. So yeah. So anyways, okay.
Is this a different tree or a different animal?
That was a different tree. That was a different one. Let's see. Yeah, there's another one.
Were these trees that were in the fire area?
Yeah, this is Paradise Fire. Yep. They burned from the bottom and the inside out.
Yeah, that is not normal at all.
No. I spent my career since I was 18 years old. That's what I've done.
Wow.
Gone on fires, you know. So, yeah. So, anyways, okay. I will see. I will try to put them in the chat, but I'm having such a hard time with just trying to figure out how to get this stuff out of the way.
Okay, stop screen share, and then you'll be back to the desktop. So let me just drop in into the chat here my email address, and you can just email them to me.
Yeah, that'd be a lot easier. How do I get back? Let me just go back to Zoom. How do I see? I'm still not seeing. I've got a white.
Okay.
screen right now.
Do you?
Oh, there we
see-
go. There we go. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Okay. Chat. Okay, there you are. Rough Atom 2003.
Yeah, if you just send me those, then
Yeah.
I can include a little slideshow in the video here.
Okay, sure.
That would be fantastic.
It might have to do it multiple times, multiple emails.
Yeah, that's fine. However you can do it. I would love to have those and add them to the presentation.
I will do that. Just give me a couple hours because I have some visitors and when this is over, but
Sure.
I'll get them to you.
Sure. Well, Matthew, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
I really want to continue this further down the road with you because we've got so much to talk about.
That sounds great, Adam. Thank you.
But I appreciate your time today, and it's been a really fantastic talk. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Adam.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you.